I was brought to you by Resident Hunters of Alaska, which I'm the president of. My name is Brad. My name is Sparks. And then we also have Frank Noska. He was supposed to be on our panel today. He was the president of Alaska Homeowner Association. The purpose of our organization is number one, conservation of our resources. Two is to do education events like this. Three is preservation of our hunting rights as Alaska residents. I've got a 8-month-old son who hopes to grow up and be a hunter. And I've got a couple pictures of him. And then one of our main missions is to fight for Alaska residents, have a voice for Alaska resident hunters. And so we want Alaska residents to have a priority towards our resources. So this is my 8-month-old son. He's already dreaming about sheep hunting. He's counting rings and putting his hands on curls, and he's just really excited to get out there. But next I'd like to introduce our panel. So we have 4 respected sheep owners. These are people that I asked to come tonight and be a part of this. Frank Noska was supposed to be here as well, but these are the 4 great expert respected sheep owners. So first is Bob Castle. He's an airplane pilot. And one of the things about Bob, I'm going to talk to you about a niche about each of these people. Bob's favorite hunting partner is his dog. His dog never wants to shoot a sheep. His dog helps him pack a sheep. And so it wasn't packed like a quarter at a time, a sheep meat at least. And so Bob can tell you more about that. Bob has killed a few sheep in his lifetime, and he kills pretty big sheep as well, as evident by this sheep. I think this was 46 inches. And Bob did not get lucky one time. Bob's got a bookcase full of sheep, so he's got lots of experience about sheep hunting. Next was Frank Noska, who is not here, but I'll brag on Frank just a second. So Frank only hunts with archery. He's killed 8 adult sheep in Alaska with his bow. He's killed a super slam, which is all 29 North American big game animals with his bow. He's done that twice. He's the only guy in the world to have ever done it twice with bow or gun. And he's 12 away from getting his 3rd super slam with his bow. Frank also has the 2nd most entries all time in Pope and Young, behind
Chuck Adams.
Chuck Adams,
Oh, okay.
yeah. But Frank's only about 20 behind Chuck Adams, and he's got about 20 years on Chuck Adams. So Frank is going to overtake him. And he lives in Wasilla, Alaska, so Frank is an archery legend. So next is Matt DeLuca. Matt is very dedicated to anything he does. For me tonight, you know, even though sheep season is a few weeks away, at my work today, we had free pizza, we had Bush's tooth. I can't resist, right? You have pizza here tonight? I can't resist. Matt, he won't have any pizza tonight. He's very serious and dedicated towards his diet, towards getting ready for sheep hunting. If you want to know anything about long-range shooting, Matt's the guy to ask. He can tell you everything about long-range shooting. He shoots, I think, a 28 Mauser for sheep hunting, and that's also what I use. So here's a ram that Matt shot last year. This is not a small ram either. This is not one that you need to count rings on. It's pretty obvious that this is a trophy ram. So we're delighted to have Matt here. Next up on our panel is Scott Luber, great friend of mine, great Christian man, who's accompanied here by his father-in-law and wife and one of his 5 babies tonight. So great to have them here. Scott has a small company called Proving Trail Adventures. And it's all about 2 guys, 2 legs, 7 mountain ranges, lots of sheep. Scott has been on 15 sheep hunts. He's killed 13 sheep from 12 different mountain ranges. So every year, Scott is a novice sheep hunter because he's going to a new area, figuring the area out. So I think that's incredible. So we're glad to have Scott here. Here's a couple pictures of Scott. Scott also has several sheep hunting DVDs, which if you want to purchase any of those, you can purchase those from Scott up here on the stage after the show. So our final panel member is Tom Loweis. Tom is a sheep biologist for the state of Alaska, works for Alaska Department of Fish and Game. Tom knows more about sheep than all of us combined probably. He spends many days out in the field observing these sheep, coloring sheep, studying the sheep, doing lots of research. And I think Tom is a resource that we don't take care of we don't take advantage of enough. Tom always has an open door policy as he's in office. If you guys have any questions about sheep hunting, where to go, Tom always has an open door to stop by and talk to. So question number one, you decided you want to go sheep hunting. How do you determine where to go sheep hunting? Scott Hoover, you're up.
So, I don't know, I think I've looked at every place on the map that you could go sheep hunting. All of my, the beginning of my research starts here. And for me, being a road system hunter for the most part, that shows me where all of the roads go through the mountains. So that's my starting point. And then once I kind of start narrowing it down, there's different maps you can pick up. This big one here, each square on it is worth 5 miles. It's nothing secret. This is the Toke management area. So if I start narrowing it down, like, okay, I'm going to hunt this area, you know, through a tag or whatever, maybe it's a different map. Then I start looking at, from the road, where can I go away from trails? You know, a lot of my hiking starts on trails. I've hiked a lot of four-wheel trails to get back in somewhere before I peel off. And then so I kind of look at a broad picture from that, and then you drop to another map, one size down, where each square is 1 mile. And this is pretty much what you take into the field. And depending on how much ground you're going to cover, you may need a couple of them. But for the most part, man, I just spend a lot of time looking at maps. I do spend a lot of time talking with people. We've talked with people where we've gotten intel that's 30 years old, and it's been great. We've talked with people that we've gotten intel that's 30 years old, and we hiked our tails off over 20 miles to get there, and there's not a sheep in sight. So that's disappointing to walk back to the truck on opening day because there's no sheep around. But, man, talking with folks, finding out where, I mean, kind of piece it together, like, where's everybody going? And if you find that out, all right, you just narrowed where you don't want to go. So then, I don't know, the nuts and bolts of it are, I think are in that.
So I used to work for Fish and Game, and one of the best resources is sitting right next to us here. When I was working for Fish and Game, I was a technician. The area biologist's name was Dave Harkins. He said, Castle, the biggest sheep I ever saw, and he put his finger on that. I went, that one you see behind me on that picture, that was within 10 miles of that. The department has that knowledge. They may not tell you where the biggest sheep ever, but they have the knowledge of where the sheep are. So that's a fantastic resource. That got me started. There's a few things that I did back when you could do it. The harvest tickets that we report on, that used to be a public document. It's not anymore. I used that resource. And then there was a great big blue book that told the sheep range of where the sheep were in Alaska. So that's how I got my base knowledge. Also, flying in the back of Super Cubs, counting sheep. I counted the park multiple times for the department and learned what sheep habitat looked like from the air. And also the signs of when they're around. You can tell that from the ground too. It's a little easier from the air if you're doing aerial scouting, which I ended up buying my own airplane out of school after I left Fish and Game, and that's helped me get around the state and have a lot of fun and multiple sheep hunts, and not necessarily bringing them home every time because I got very selective. Fringe habitat holds the bigger rams. That's been my experience. I look for areas that don't have harvest very often or very remote access, and maybe not even sheep in the area in the wintertime, so that they move into the area. There may be only 3 or 4 rams every season in that area. Well, they get a chance to grow big because nobody's harvesting them. Last year, the one I shot, I walked by 3 rams 700 yards away. They just stayed bedded the whole time. I went over to the ram I was after, couldn't quite close the deal on it, 3 trips in there. He was in a bad spot. I didn't want to shoot it and come back out. What I'm saying is there are places in the state that still do not get hunted, but it means flying in. You're not going to do it off the road system. And so that's, and that can be done with charter, but it's a lot harder because you find a place like that and so many charters again, they're going to take somebody else there. So I would say I have a pretty good advantage with the airplane, but I came by it with knowledge from Fish and Game look at harm and health. So that's a really good resource.
All right, great. Does anybody else have anything to add?
I'll put a little bit in here, Brad, kind of to put some of the stuff that Bob and Scott have mentioned. Remember, sheep are creatures of habit, and if, and a lot of you guys are long-time sheep hunters know this, but if they're there, you'll generally see traces of it. You'll see sheep trails. Bob mentioned that, so scouting trips are really, really valuable, especially if you're a road system hunter. You can learn a lot in 2 or 3 days and get in shape at the same time. The other thing is, if you find sheep in an area, they will generally be back there. They're very, very much creatures of habit. And then you can use that knowledge, like as to what Bob said, what sheep habitat looks like. Think about where you're seeing sheep and what they're doing and what they're using on that landscape. And you can apply that to other areas in the same mountain range or other areas in different mountain ranges.
Fish and Game has been a great resource. If you just call them up and say, hey, I want to go sheep hunting, I mean, they probably get that how many times a day, Tom?
I got 4 of those this afternoon.
So if you just show up or call Fish and Game and say, I want to go sheep hunting, where should I go? They're going to say, hey, this has a great population over here or over there. But if you approach that conversation with specifics and details on your already kind of thought out plan, you'll be surprised what kind of information they'll tell you at that point.
Let me add to that, Scott. That's a great point. And I just want to point out, I'm not the only person in the Anchorage office that flies sheep. There's a handful of other guys that do, and there's a handful of really, really dedicated sheep nuts in the Anchorage office. Some of the younger biologists are up and coming and are super motivated. So there's a lot of good information there. It's not just me. That said, we are really busy in the summertime. And I literally got 4 calls this afternoon. Hey, I want to go sheep hunting. It's like, well, dude, it's the last week of July, and I'm packing my pack right now, and I'm not telling you where I'm going. You'll get much, much better information from us if you approach us in April or May or early June, just because as summer gets later, we start flying surveys. Most of us are hunters. Most of us have our own plans, and we're headed out. So as time gets tight, we're trying to get those last bits and pieces of work wrapped up before we go into the field.
So next, we've decided we want to go sheep hunting. We've picked a place to go sheep hunting. So now, how does somebody get ready for sheep hunting? How do they train? As Tom said, you shouldn't call a biologist 2 weeks before sheep season and ask where to go. You're about a year behind. So Matt DeLuca is very seriously dedicated with his health and training. So I would like to hear Matt's input on how you get ready to be a sheep hunter.
All right, it's good to know the audience here real quick. I gotta get some jitters out when I'm talking in front of people. So, how many people have gone sheep hunting and killed a ram out there? Show of hands. Okay, fair amount. All right, how many are aspiring sheep hunters? All right, we're balanced then. That's good. Okay, I'm gonna kind of be general here. I can answer questions on anything. I'm not an expert by any means, but this is something that's not casual to me. You can ask my wife. If you come to my house at any point in time, there's usually gear sprawled all over the house, or some book or some TV show on it has to do with sheep hunting, and she's not too happy with me. But this is 365 days a year, so how do I get ready? First thing every day I wake up at 4 a.m. and I text my sheep hunting partner, Rand. We've been doing that for 6 years now. It's kind of something we got going on. But to get into this, 4 categories I want to go over. So mind, body, gear, and skills and training. So the first thing is mind. Everybody who's been on a mountain hunt here know it changes you if you really get out there and commit yourself to it. And, go through the physical exertion, the exhaustion, everything that goes into a mountain hunt. So getting your mind right is the first thing. That's going to quit on you way before your body does. We're lucky to have this resource in the state. Don't take it for granted. I don't. I'm blessed to be able to go sheep hunting every year, to have my mobility. So being very focused on what's in front of me and what I'm about to do. The next thing is body. You could ask 10 different people in here on how to get ready, and you're going to get 10 different answers. However, I think the physical piece, it's a lifestyle. I do a ton of training in a pack and a lot of resistance training, kettlebells, gymnastics, and stuff like that. I won't spend a ton of time on that. With body, this is where diet comes in. A few years ago, I found that I was having problems. About day 3 in the mountain, I was just crashing. No energy. It was tough to put a good day together. It affected my mental state. And this was a few months, and I'm like, I need to revisit the drawing board here and figure out a way to change this. So you've heard of the ketogenic diet by now. It's out there, it's everywhere. It's kind of become a thing. However, a couple years ago, I started doing some research on, hey, how can I get more out of my body and increase my performance? I was doing a little bit of research on ultra marathoners, and came across this one guy who was using a low carbohydrate, high fat diet. And that kind of got me thinking. I did some more digging. I found a dietitian in South America, contacted him, and we worked on a program together to kind of formulate a diet that was more fat focused and carbohydrate focused. And I can tell you it worked. The first time I went out with this diet, I was extremely hesitant because I didn't know what was going to happen. And I'll kind of give you some examples of my personal findings with this, but I'm down to a pound of food a day, which if anybody's talking how much we take in food is, pound and a half, 2 pounds a day. So when we start talking 10 to 14 day unsupported backpack time, I'm carrying 10, 12 to 14 pounds of food. That's a game changer. My performance is through the roof. I feel amazing. But it was one of those things where I kind of had to ease into it and figure out what worked. So if you guys want, if a question comes up, I can talk through some of the things that I take, but that diet has really changed my performance in the mountains. Next thing is gear. I know Scott's going to go over gear with his pack, so I won't spend a ton of time on that, but I'm a gear freak, I'm a gear nerd, so you'll see my truck parked at Barney's almost 3 times a week, so I'm there quite a bit. Next piece, skills and training. So I became a long-range shooter to become a better short-range shooter. I'm not an advocate of trying to take a sheep at 1,300 yards. I don't think that's the right thing to do by any means, but what long-range shooting taught me were the fundamentals. It's something that I can go out to the range now and make hits at 700 to 1,200 yards fairly easily and repeatable. And what that did is it taught me the fundamentals. So how do I read the environment? How do I set up on the gun? How do I manipulate and use all the features of my firearm to be a better shot? Fast forward, you bring your range in from 500 to 200 to 300 to 400, and all of a sudden that's easy. I think we've also spent enough time on a virtual to see the challenges that exist past 200 yards with the collective out there. So now it's been a situation where I'm much better with my fundamentals, and I can take shots at any distance much more confidently. To build on that too is how do you build a position when you're out in the field? Shooting off of a bench, it creates bad habits. How are you shooting off of a pack? How are you building a position around your pack? How are you using a tree and the gear that you have within your pack to execute a shot at any distance for that matter? There's a training class up here run by Mark Taylor and Frank Galley, the owner of Sniper Side. It's worth the time and money. They teach 2 classes, PR1 and PR2. They're not paying me anything to say that, but it's worth the time.
Okay, any other questions right now? All right, so we talked about finding a place to go sheep hunting, how to get ready to go sheep hunting, and now Scott Luper is going to talk about what gear to take sheep hunting. So Scott brought a pack. You want me to help you just start on the microphone and go through your pack?
I mean, if we want to pull everything out, we're welcome to. Or I think, do you have the gear list on the PowerPoint? This gear list is just generic. I don't have any specifics on, what kind of backpack or tent or anything. So this is just something you guys can take home and use it as a checklist if you don't have one already. If you want the specifics that we're using, my website, provingtrailadventures.com, has our gear list with all our specifics and the weights. And if we're doing 2 guys going out on a hunt for 10 days, I think we're at like 42 pounds with that. My pack right here is set up for a solo hunt, 10 days of food, and it's at 44 pounds. So that's pretty great. I like what Matt said earlier today, that there's a big difference between 44 pounds and 52 pounds. So if you can get your pack weight under 50 pounds, you're doing great. So just quick going through this, backpack, rain cover, trekking poles. I take 3 liters of water, but I'm just running a 2 liter consistently. I have a 1 liter where if I'm gonna be doing a big climb late and I don't know if there's water up high, I'll take that extra liter with me.
Hey Scott, I have one question.
Yes.
So when people talk about pack weight, you're talking about water or no water?
No water in there
And no
because
gun.
my platypus is dry.
Right, so 44 pounds, just no water, no gun, so.
And it's not counting like the clothes I would wear or my binoculars or my boots. It's just bare bones pack.
Right.
Yeah.
So with water and gun, you're gonna be well with it.
Yes. Now I'll be under.
Must be a light gun.
Yeah. Feel free to interrupt me if I'm going through this too fast and you guys have a question on any of this. Binocular, spotting scope, tripod, your optics are crucial to a sheep hunt. Like you can't go without those. Digital camera for your memories, hunting license, sheep tag, a butcher bag, and you guys can get creative with that. Don't forget your rifle, sling, scope cover, ammo, bullets, and then a tent. We've broke it down there. If you're doing a ground pad instead of a full tent, you'll want to make a note of that. So I've got an old school Bosch and Lom, super lightweight and really clear. It's great. Used it on several sheep hunts and never had an issue judging rams with it. Yes, yeah, and they're super hard to find. You're welcome to take a look at it afterwards. But when I'm hunting with Steve, he's my sheep hunting partner, he's got a Leica, and as we've compared my spotting scope to his side by side, the Leica outperforms in low light conditions. But during the day, it's a toss-up on these.
And Scott, for your binos, you use 10x42s?
Yes. Yeah, I like the 10 powder. What's that?
For your binos, you all use 10 power?
I get a lot of questions on like, what rifle do I need to kill a sheep with? And you don't need much to kill a sheep. They're pretty, just get something you can shoot comfortably. Moving on, sleeping bag, thermarest, ground cloth or your tent body, jet boil and a fuel can. So I know with my jet boil, Steve and I can do a 10-day trip with just one small fuel can. We always take two, just in case we get in a situation where we got to boil some snow and we got minimal water available to us out there. But one fuel can is gonna be sufficient for us because it's gonna give us like between 23 and 25 burns. So we're only burning a fuel for suppers at night and then the occasional cup of coffee, usually when we're hiking out. So.
And I will say, you have to be careful putting snow in the jet boil. I had somebody borrow mine that did that one time, and there was no liquid in there. The jet boil gets so hot because it can't transfer the heat to the liquid, and the entire bottom of the jet boil, all those little ridges, melted off in ash and just fell off. So if you do melt snow, be careful. It's good to have some liquid in there, or maybe heat it up if the snow melts some, and then turn on the jet boil.
A lot of those koozies, that you pull off and throw away because you want to cut weight, have those instructions on there.
Yeah.
So, maps for your hunt area. For me, a journal and a pencil is, I think, one of my favorite pieces of gear out there. I've got quite a few of the Write and Rain journals back home that are fun stories to read to the kids when I get back. And I don't know, it's just like, it's my adventure sitting there for somebody to read. It's pretty awesome. Don't forget your toilet paper or a paperback book in case you get, for the book, that's all I'm talking about. Book for getting rained in your tent for a day or two. Survival first aid kit. This is our kind of minimalist stuff in a ditty bag. You guys can mix and match with your own personal needs. And then there's a list of our clothing and the food we take. Basically got one day laid out there. That's pretty standard for us.
Okay, so next, can you guys talk about your most important or favorite piece of hunting gear that you would take on a sheep hunt? And I'll just go ahead and say mine. I've got a Western Mountaineering sleeping bag, and that's my favorite piece of gear. I love it. It's I think it's rated at 20 bucks, right at 2 pounds. And, that's my favorite piece of sheep hunting gear.
All gear is good. Mine would be my Swirl binos. I love those things. You spend so much time on glass. You live on it. So, I mean, getting the right glass, it just becomes an extension of you. And then my Stone Glacier backpack for sheep hunting. I absolutely love that thing. And that's what works for me. I know we got a Kafaru here, but I love my Stone Glacier.
I don't think I could hunt sheep without trekking poles. It's just vitally important. You're literally a four-legged animal when you have them out there. It's like having a rope to pull you up the mountain, and it's 4 legs and a lot of weight off your knees when you're coming down mountains.
I'm going to show you what I use in product here. I'm a 3-legged animal. This is a 3rd leg in the mountain. I end up on ice. The ideal height is that high because you're on the mountain. This is going to catch you. And when you're really exposed, I have a wrist strap, so it's attached to me. If I go down, I'm going to stop myself. I get in some pretty nasty spot. And it's always on the uphill side, and when you fall, you're going to slip this way. The ice axe pushes you out, so you get grip with your boots. You're actually pushing yourself away from the mountain when you slip, and you catch yourself. This thing has saved my butt so many times. This is the 3rd tip on it. I wear it out. It's titanium head. That's the height. It's a 3rd leg in the mountain. This is my favorite piece of gear. I wouldn't go out without it. If in a Brooks range, I won't have this. I'll have a walking stick. Brooks range is just roly poly, and the nasty on the ice is ice axe.
I'm gonna answer this a little bit differently. What these guys all said, absolutely, good boots, good glass, trekking poles. But I think the 2 things that have made the biggest difference in my sheep hunting career, first one would be the weight room. I started weights after an injury. I was a lifetime runner, 10Ks, half marathons, all kinds of stuff. Ran my entire life. Started weight training after an injury in 2012, and it has changed the way I carry a pack in the mountains. Strength training is one of the biggest things that has changed the game for me. And the second one is an Amazon Kindle. Scott mentioned a paperback book, but I get bored kind of easy. I'm a little bit hyper, ADHD, whatever you want to call it. And for me to be able to stay psyched on a storm day and come out of that tent excited and happy and ready to hunt, I'll have a dozen books on the Kindle. It's in a Ziploc bag at the top of my pack, and it's like, hey, there's just 8 hours of bliss. I'm not wound up or worried or anything like that. Some stuff that helps me pass the time is pretty key. But good glass, good boots, for sure. But don't forget the little bitty creature comforts just to kind of, make those storm days a little easier.